What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks or so since I have done a Q&A, so I wanted to go ahead and get one of those filmed for you guys. As always, these questions come from my TikTok community, so if you guys have questions that you would want to ask and participate in these Q&As, the best way to do that is to follow me on TikTok and wait till I post my Q&A videos and then leave your questions as a comment. So we got lots of good questions today, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So first question comes from Caidin Kloepping, and they ask, would it make sense to split the lumbar row and iliac pull down onto different pull days or keep it on the same day, and why? So I think that you should probably keep them in the same session. A couple reasons for that. One, I don't see a whole lot of need to separate them. It's not really like one exercise kind of takes away from the other one in terms of performance. Yes, they do hit the same muscle, but they are kind of biasing different areas of that muscle. And then also, if you're going to be doing a pull day, you're probably going to be doing more than one lat focused movement. And so I just don't see the need to have both of your lat movements, let's say do an iliac movement and then both of them be a lumbar movement. I would rather do one of each and just kind of have some variety within the session. Every time that I kind of go into the gym and try to train a muscle, I try to train it with as much variety as I can, as many different exercises as I can, within reason, of course. So the way I see it, I would definitely just have them in the same session. Next question comes from Sora, and they ask, are iliac pull downs enough to target all three portions of the lat, or should I incorporate dedicated lumbar and thoracic lat exercises? So I'm going to give kind of a fairly potentially unpopular opinion here. So within the past couple of years or so, there's been like an increasing amount of talk in the fitness industry about biasing different portions of the lat. We've got the iliac lats and the thoracic lats and the lumbar lats. And what I am not saying is, I'm not saying that that's not a thing. Like we have tons of research and anatomical data that prove that you can bias specific portions of the lat. What I am arguing, though, is that the vast majority of people who are watching this video probably don't need to worry about something like that. For example, it's going to be very, very rare that most people watching this video are going to have like one portion of the lat that is super developed and other portions of the lat that are not. I think in the most part, muscles grow from insertion to origin. And so if you are doing exercises that train your lat, you're growing all portions of the lat. That's my personal belief. Again, I'm not saying that we can't bias other portions of the lat with different exercises, because that's not true. But I just think that most people like worrying about this or stressing about this is not something that is necessary. The only type of people that I see this kind of thing being super applicable for would be like professional bodybuilders or like national level bodybuilders who are right on the cusp of turning pro. Don't know how many of you guys like actually follow the IFBB pro scene, but like for example, Big Ramy has won the past two Mr. Olympia contests, and the biggest type of criticism that he gets is that he needs more lower lats specifically. His upper lats and mid lats are very, very good, but his lower lats are a part of his body that need to improve. And so a situation like that is where I see the most merit, where someone needs to focus on like specific regions of the lat, or specific regions of the pec, or specific regions of any muscle. I think the vast majority of the people, myself included, need to focus on just improving the overall size of the muscle from insertion to origin, and not really worry so much about these nitpicky little details of, I need to focus on the thoracic region of my lats. Like, no, your entire lat needs to get bigger. So just keep the big picture in mind, and I don't really think that most people need to worry about this type of stuff. Okay, next question comes from Whoosh BR, and this is a two-part question. They ask, I just moved into college and have had a lot of trouble sleeping, only getting 5 to 6.5 hours a night. Do you recommend sleeping pills to get me back into the 8 to 10 range? And would there be any drawbacks of that in your mind? So no, I would not recommend sleeping pills, because the vast majority of the sleeping pills are more or less just going to sedate you. And I kind of want to make it clear that getting sedated sleep is not the same as getting good quality sleep. And so obviously, like, this is a tough choice to make. Do I get 5 to 6 hours of quality sleep, or do I get 8 hours of sedated sleep? In my personal opinion, I actually think that the 5 to 6 hours of normal sleep is probably the better case. I know a lot of people who have kind of gotten themselves into trouble with these sleeping pills and have developed a very strong dependency on them. And also, like I said, from my personal experience, when I use like medication to help me sleep, when I wake up in the morning, I do not feel rested. I could have gotten 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but I very much feel like I was sedated throughout that time period, and I wasn't really actually getting good quality sleep. So my recommendation for you is, you know, this is going to sound super obvious and straightforward, but you need to really prioritize your sleep. Maybe you live in a dorm and you've got a roommate or something, that's a little bit harder, but for the most part, man, like you're going to have to really prioritize setting up a sleep hygiene schedule, making sure that you're getting yourself relaxed and calm before you get in bed, and making sure that you're prioritizing your sleep. And I would not look for a medication or a pill to band-aid that and to supplement that. I would focus on the things that are actually going to directly impact that, like your stress management and things along those lines. So no, I don't really recommend sleeping pills, honestly. Next question comes from Uberizer, and they ask, in terms of nutrition, overall calories, protein, carbs, and fats are important, but are micronutrients also important in one's diet? Absolutely, 100%, not even something that is debatable. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals and all those things along those lines, and those things, amongst many other things, regulate all of your body's processes and your overall internal health. This is a big reason why I'm not really a fan of if it fits your macros, because I find a lot of people are filling their macros with junk food just to kind of quench their craving for having junk food, and I don't think that is a legitimate reason to do that. I think that calories and everything, a carb is a carb to an extent, a fat is a fat to an extent, protein is protein to an extent, calorie is a calorie to an extent, but there's no way that you can convince me that 100 calories from an apple and 100 grams of calories from a Pop-Tart are the same thing, because the micronutrient content that's in the fruit is obviously going to be much healthier for us. So yeah, I mean, it's very, very important to hit micronutrients within your food. The best way that I recommend doing this is to use an app called Chronometer. I'll throw it up in a text here. This is what I use to track all of my nutrition. I prefer it over MyFitnessPal. I think it's a lot more accurate, and it also tracks all of your micronutrient needs. So specifically, I'm looking at a lot of things, but mainly like potassium, iron, calcium, and magnesium are really the main ones that I'm trying to guarantee that I hit 100% of my daily value through my nutrition. Next question comes from Morgan, and she asks, when do you bring carbs up? And then she lists her macros. So Morgan, basically I bring up carbohydrates anytime that I increase calories, really. Typically the way that I prefer to set up a diet is I like to get protein set up in a spot where it's adequate. The client is eating enough protein in order to reach their protein goals. And then I typically like to put fats towards the lower end, like around the minimum amount that people can handle. And then from there, when it comes to increasing calories, I prefer to increase the calories from carbohydrates, just because the carbohydrates are going to be the greatest macronutrient that impacts our training performance and our recovery. And so I see the need to prioritize carbohydrates within a diet. If I only get so many calories that I can eat, I want to be eating as many carbohydrates as I can within that allotment of calories, because that's going to make my training and my recovery the best that it can possibly be. So there are no really like set specific scenarios where I would bring up carbohydrates. Just basically anytime that I make a calorie increase, I typically tend to increase carbohydrates. And the final question comes from IEJ, bunch of random letters, I'm not going to say that. They ask, what should I do to feel less front delt on chest exercises? What I feel to be the best for this is to utilize a slight retraction and depression of the scapula. And now this is something that people can kind of tend to get carried away with, but I personally find for myself that having a slight depression and retraction in the scapula allows me to keep my front delts out of my movements and maximize the tension on the chest. And the way that I kind of see this is, I'm going to try and set up from the side here. This may make things a little bit easier to see. If you see when I'm here in this position sitting on the side right here, my pecs are in front of my shoulders. And the reason why this is because I have my scapulas retracted and slightly depressed. So from here, when I press, we can still see that my pec is beyond my shoulder line. Now, if my scapula were to go into protraction and actually go forward, you can see that my shoulder is now covering up my chest. And this is really like elementary way to kind of illustrate this. But basically what is going to be in front of the other body part is going to be the prime mover of the press. And so in order to put your pecs in the position where they can be the prime mover, I do find that slight retraction and depression of the scapula is going to be the best thing for you. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching, and thank you again to everybody who contributed questions to this Q&A. Again, if you guys want to be a part of the next one, please feel free to follow me on TikTok. I leave it in the description of all my YouTube videos, and just wait for my next Q&A video, and then you guys can leave your questions as a comment on there. Thanks again for watching, guys, and as always, take care of yourselves.